Okay, we're next going to look at non-random sampling. Less to talk about here, but let's go through it. So let's have a little think about the idea of being left-handed. So later on, when we do some sort of like analysis of looking at correlation, and maybe if we want to see if two things are connected, we might want to know if people who are left-handed, if there's some connection with IQ. So we need some people who are left-handed. Now, why would a random sample be problematic? Well, it's the most common one that we talk about for the random sampling methods, which is the sampling frame. Okay, so this one's come up quite a few times now. We don't have that nice list or register of all of the people. And because we don't have that, we can't assign number to them and sort of pick them up and so on. So what we might do is we might do something called quota sampling. So in this case, say I might want to talk to some left-handed people and I might want to talk to some right-handed people. So these are a bit like my groups, a bit like my strata from before. So we're going to divide our population into these groups, and we might want to weight one more than the other or keep them even or whatever it is. And what we're going to do is we're going to essentially fill that quota up. So a quota means like sort of a limit, an amount that you're going to speak to. So you're left-handed, you may have, say, you might want to do 30, and right-handed, you may wish to speak to, say, 70 people. Okay, so we would just keep asking people until we got our 30, and then we wouldn't be interested anymore, and we'd keep going until we got our 70, and then we would stop there. Okay, so we're going to keep going until the quota is filled, is what it sort of says here. We're dividing our population up according to whatever it is that we're looking at. If we have some idea about rough proportions in the population, I've just given that a rough go there, we might sort of weight them differently. But the key idea is just we'll ask until we've spoken to enough people to get those responses. Okay, so quota sampling, dividing groups according to a characteristic, say left and right-handedness. Okay, and the interviewer is going to select the actual sampling units because they're going to speak to the people, and then if they say left-handed, they're going to say, oh yes, can we speak to you? If they're going to talk to the right-handed, they'll say, yes, great, we need to talk to you. Then after a while, a left-handed person might be willing to answer the questions, and the interviewer will say, no, sorry, I've already filled my quota. I've already spoken to everyone. Okay, so very much now we're not in the realm of random anymore because we don't have an equal chance of people being picked. Notice also in the non-random that the interviewer has much more of a role. So this can be good if we want to do some small samples and we want to, again, look at different strata, different groups. We don't need the sampling frame. This is the thing that's very limiting about the other methods. Relatively quick, easy, inexpensive, and it would allow us perhaps to kind of like compare different groups. The problem is this non-random element is going to introduce bias. As we said, not everybody has an equal chance of being picked anymore. That might be because the quota has already been filled. It also might be because of this interviewer. There might be a case that they just don't want to talk to people who look too, in our example, who maybe look too clever for the left-handed, or they might avoid certain types of people and so on. So this is a problem now. There's more of a human element to it. We do need to know these groups. It might not be accurate. So my 70-30, for example, could be wildly off. It increases the scope of the study, adding a lot more complexity to it. Yeah, so all we really wanted to do is get some input from left and right-handed people, but we may be getting more and more involved with our interviewer here. This is an interesting one. So the people that you turned away, we never found out anything about them. So it was sort of a wasted opportunity, you might argue, to get some more insight from them. Okay, so this is quota sampling. Talk about the groups. So it's essentially like you can think of this as a non-random version of stratified sampling, if you like. Then we've got opportunity. So opportunity is sort of the most unusual one of them all. This is just you ask whoever's there at that time because it's convenient for you. So it's convenience sampling sometimes as well. What does this look like? This looks like I want to know something about what the red ink looks like, say on these videos that I'm putting up here. And I might be in my lesson and I might just ask the people in front of me. Okay, so it's going to be asking whoever's there at the time. So this perhaps might be like talking to somebody outside the supermarket about their shopping habits, something like that. It's very easy. It's very, very cheap, but it's unlikely to be representative for a number of reasons. Okay, first of all, it can completely ignore strata. There's the role of the interviewer in who they speak to, who they don't speak to. So, for example, if we are outside some kind of supermarket, we might be more tempted after a while to speak to more retired people because they might be walking a little bit more slowly and they might not look like they're in as much of a rush. So the representative nature, that sort of doesn't really work so well. And as we said there, it can really sort of depend on who's doing the research. So there we've got our two non-random ones. So again, we need to be able to identify when each is being used. The key bit about the quota, okay, is the groups. Okay, so if there's no sampling frame and there's groups, you've got quota sampling most likely in front of you. If it's just whatever's there at that time and it works, and again, there's no sampling frame, opportunity sampling is likely what you have. A quick question on the board for us to have a go at. Pause the video and have a go. It says there are 3 species of fish. Well, already, yeah, this looks like groups to me. So I'm thinking quota as we're doing the non-random sort of part of this. We've got this, this, this. Okay, so we've got an idea of proportions, haven't we? A survey on the health of fish is carried out. We want 30 fish total. So there's a few ways you could do this. So one of them is you could just add these together. If you do that, that's what, 2,450. Okay. And we could look at what 30 out of those 2,450 are. Or if we go to the similar sort of thing we were doing in the mark scheme before, we could set it up like this. So this is the relative share for each of the species, and then this is our n value. So if we put this one in here, for example, that's going to say how many trout we should pick out. What's that? That's a bit over half, so the answer is going to be a bit over half of the 30. It's going to be, say, 16, 17, 18 fish, something like that. So give a reason why stratified random sampling cannot be used. Well, one thing here is it's very, very hard for us to number each of the fish, isn't it? Okay, so sampling frame within each species of the fish is going to be impossible. You know, we can't sort of have trout number 1, trout number 2, trout number 3, and so on. So they've just said the sampling frame within each species of fish is impossible. If there were only 3 fish, I suppose we could do that, couldn't we? We could say trout is number 1, bass is number 2, but we just can't do that within the species. So that's what they're saying about bass 100, sorry, bass 1, bass 2, bass 3, etc., etc. State an appropriate sampling method. Well, quota would work quite well. What's an advantage and disadvantage? Well, we don't need the sampling frame, but at the same time, we can be representative with the different species of fish that we have. We've got some other ones here. So we've got the samples quick, the costs are cheap, administration's easy, not possible to estimate sampling errors, process not random. It might be hard to identify the fish. So what's interesting here is you're starting to see lots of contextual arguments coming in. So that's what we need to do when we're doing stats. We need to kind of read it into the context as well. How could we get the 30? Show our working out. Okay, so we want something nice and detailed like this. And notice that we can get decimals. All right, we can get decimal answers. So we're just going to round these ones. And this will say how many of each we need. We're going to catch the fish. We're going to note whatever it is, okay, and then we're going to return them. What would be really good is to say that we're going to keep the fish until we collect all of them, and then return them all at the same time. So we're not double counting the same species. Okay, if it's not the one that we want, we ignore it. We ignore it because our quota for, say, bass might already be full, and we might have to keep going until we get more trouts or more pike, and so on. So that's your quota sampling, and that's your non-random sampling.